Hi again, Martin from topratedwebhostings.com. Now, before we get into this week's or today's video, I'm going to ask you firstly, if you're interested in what I have to say and you'd like to hear more, at the end of the video, you'll be shown you can hit the subscribe button and then click the bell. That way, you'll be subscribed to my channel and you'll be notified every time we have a new video ready to go for you. Now, in today's short video, it's only about 7 or 8 minutes, I'm going to be talking about what web hosting is. A lot of people have been asking, and I'll try and keep it simple. Now, essentially, if you think of your computer as having a hard drive in it, whenever you're actually wanting to bring up any files on there, whether it be a Word document or a spreadsheet, you access that file from the hard drive. Now, if you have a website that is hosted on a server, which is really a very large and powerful computer, that will be hosting your website. However, there is a little bit more to this. For a start, the kind of hosting that I recommend is self-hosting. What that means is that if you go to topratedwebhostings.com, there are a list of a number of different hosting providers and their accompanying reviews, and you, if you choose to set up web hosting, would then select one of those companies to provide your web hosting. So they provide the computer server infrastructure where all of your files are actually kept, stored, or hosted, and that way it's constantly powered on. It's hopefully well designed to deal with the surges in traffic that you'd be expecting, depending on the package, of course, that you've purchased, and that is essentially what self-hosting is. So I'll explain this a little bit further. When you want to find your website on the internet, you need to type in what's called a domain name. For example, my website domain name, or at least one of my websites, is www.topratedwebhostings.com. Now, that is set by my registrar, who are the people who manage my domain name, which is like the address of where the files are hosted, and that using something called DNS, or domain name server pointing, points to my server's location, which is where all the files are for my website. Now, some people choose to not necessarily self-host so much, but use providers like Wix, or it might be Weebly or blogger.com, etc. And there's a lot of them around. Now, in their cases, they take care of the hosting for you. Now, you may have a free account with them, which I don't recommend, because whilst you have an account with a free account holding company, what happens is, through their terms of service, they might decide one day that for whatever reason, they're going to take your site offline. Now, if that happens, all of your hard work, all of your effort is now gone into the trash. You can't sometimes even get it back when that's happened. That is a risk with free serving arrangements like that. There are next step arrangements where you actually pay, and you can use those services and link them to your domain name. Now, that is sort of a halfway point. However, I always recommend having your own hosting and having your own separate domain name that you are in charge of and that you point towards your host. The reason being, quite simply, you are less likely to find that your site is taken offline for whatever reason. Someone didn't like the weather that day, they were upset by a comment on your site. Whatever that is, it's always nice to have that control and not be worried about that site going down. So I recommend having your own hosting, and any of the hosting companies on topratedwebhostings.com is a really good place to start. I then also recommend, even though with all of those hosting companies you can register your domain name with them directly, it's better to go to a separate registrar, and I often use namecheap.com. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in another video. But you can set up your registration of your domain name at one place and then point it to your hosting provider. And that way you've got a little bit of extra security. It takes an extra 2 days to set up the initial connection between your domain name and where your website is. However, once done, you pay a yearly fee for your domain name, and you pay either a monthly fee for your hosting, or you could buy it in blocks of 12 months, 24 months, or 36 months. Usually if you pay it for a longer period of time in one go, you will get a slight, or even in some cases quite a significant discount. At the end of the day, whichever way you prefer, that is up to you, your budget flow, and so on. However, down in the bottom of the video there is a listing of my website with all the different options for web hosting, and I will actually be writing an article on the blog which explains all of that information, exactly what I've discussed in this video, and that will actually be linked to from this video as well. So hopefully that's helped clarify that yes, you can get the free hosting that is incorporated with companies like Wix, Weebly, Blogger, etc. There are many others. However, it's always best to pay a few dollars extra yourself, and some of the hosting companies are quite reasonably priced. In some cases you're looking at $2 or $3, maybe $4 a month. You can of course get higher grade plans for a bit more, but it doesn't have to break the bank. And then having your domain name with another registrar and interconnecting the two together, and then you've got yourself an excellent service. That'll be explained also in the article down below, as well as in the articles that I link to from the bottom of the video. Hope you're having a good day. Make sure that you work on selling something today. I always say work on selling something today. Make sure you put something worthwhile and new on your website. If you're not making that effort to put that information forward, it's going to be holding you back and your potential clients. Always making sure that you give more than you get, and in the term it effectively works in a round robin. Everyone succeeds. So there you go. Have an absolutely awesome day, and just before I go, please remember, hit that subscribe button just under the video, click the bell, make sure you get notified. Have an awesome day, people. Cheers.